All right, welcome everyone. Welcome to the final session of today's Neil Patel's Advanced SEO Summit. I'm very excited to be here. I'm Vasil. I'm here with Aaron, who's a regular speaker at Neil's events. And today we had a long day. We had a full day of jam-packed with content, and I'm glad that many of you went through the whole journey with us. So if you can hear me right now in the chat, feel free to say hi, and I want to make sure that my microphone is working. So I'm seeing that a few people saying hello, so which is great. This is the last session of the day. I cannot be more excited. And okay, Clayton can hear, perfect. If you guys can hear me, okay, everybody's saying hello, so I'm assuming that we are good to go. So this is the last session of the day. So you have that unique opportunity to ask Aaron, who is a very experienced search, content, and social media marketer who worked with tons of enterprise companies such as Coca-Cola, Salesforce, IBM, you name it. And today he prepared a very special presentation for you on how to actually beat enterprise competitors with their own SEO tactics. Aaron, how are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. It's nice and early for me, but yeah, I'm awake and keen to get into it.
Excellent. Aaron is joining us early from all the way from Australia. Which city are you at? Are you in Sydney or Melbourne?
Yeah, Sydney today.
Excellent. And before we dive deep into SEO tactics, I also want to mention that I recently discovered Aaron's podcast, growth mapping podcast that he started with Susan, which is excellent. So for you guys, if you would like to learn SEO or also content marketing, how to run your agency, how to get PR, how to become a speaker at the conference, highly recommend to check it out. And without further ado, I'm going to pass it on to Aaron. Aaron, please take it away.
Thank you. Okay, so the whole point of today's session was really to cover how to beat enterprise competitors with their own SEO tactics. We work with a lot of different enterprise-sized clients, and we've worked with small to medium in the past as well. And one of the things that we've always found is that there's a lot of stuff that stops the big businesses from being as successful as they could be, and there are still some opportunities for small business and businesses that want to be able to rank well and take some of that organic traffic. And so I wanted to cover some of those things in this presentation. So as was mentioned, we've worked with a number of large clients, things like Salesforce, IBM, Coke. We know the sort of gaps that exist there and the opportunities, and let's get into what some of those are. So one of the things that I wanted to mention, and I'll mention this again at the end, is that a real challenge in SEO isn't so much the old established behemoths. It's the sort of companies that are still remaining agile and nimble throughout their growth. Those are the ones that become a risk, and those are the ones that are going to be tricky to beat moving forward. And I'll get into it in a second, and it'll become clearer as I go through this presentation. So yeah, going up against enterprise can seem impossible, and it is if you target the wrong sort of terms. And there are many reasons as to why these big companies are dominating. And one of the best posts that I've seen in a really long time was from Glenn from Viper Chill, who I know spoke earlier. He puts out some amazing content, and I encourage everyone to check out some of the content on there. This one post that I'm talking about here was a piece that Glenn put together on the top 16 massive media companies that are absolutely dominating search. And what I mean by that is they are coming up and taking over most of the search results for such a broad range of keywords that they really are controlling so much of search. The URL is there, viperchill.com/Google Control. And there's a good example there on the screen for ground beef recipes. You can see a few of those media companies taking just about every spot on the top page of Google. There's more examples. Well, more examples coming up, but this is the collection of some of these 16 massive media companies and some of the sub-brands that they have underneath them. They are just absolutely dominating because of domain authority and because of smart internal and smart linking between the group. And I'll get into that in a second, but some more examples. Best bridge camera. You can have a look at a whole bunch of these brands in the top 16 that are just taking over every single spot. They're absolutely dominating. Another example in gaming was Dark Souls 3 review, just almost 9 out of the 10 spots by that same 16 media companies. Even beauty, hair color ideas, taking over a whole lot of them. You can see Hearst there. They have a lot of control, a lot of money, a lot of value, and they're able to do some really smart things to dominate those top 10 spots. Now, one of the things that they're doing in order to make this happen is simply giving each other site-wide footer links from these massive sites. They're having a link in the bottom of their site saying, our partner sites or keyword-rich anchor text there, and they're linking back through to every other site in their group, which simply passes that domain authority through. One of the things that Glenn covered in that blog post was around the newly launched bestproducts.com from Hearst Media. These guys, all they needed to do was Hearst put a site-wide link from all the other sites in the group through to bestproducts.com, and they absolutely smashed it in terms of the organic traffic that they started getting through in such a short period of time. They were getting 600,000 visitors per month in a very short period of time due to that site-wide footer link from all the other sites in the group. That's, according to SEMrush, almost $600,000 a month in free traffic, which is just mind-blowing to think that you can do that simply by manipulating the authority that exists in the group. The other thing about massive companies is they can pay PPC rates that most small and medium businesses either can't afford or don't want to afford. It's not the sort of place that you want to put all of your massive all of your budget into. There's some examples there of average cost per action in different industries, and it's mind-blowing to think that most small businesses will just have no opportunity to compete in this area. So as a small business owner, can you afford to pay over $100 per CPA? And I'm guessing not. Most people can't, and it just means that you have to find smarter ways to be able to compete with these massive companies. They've got massive resources that they can put not just in budgets, but in teams and so much more. And that example from Glenn just shows how they connect any new site and dominate. So an example, when we're talking about huge budgets, at Hearst Media, they bought an SEO firm, iCrossing, for $325 million. So you can imagine the smarts that they are putting into their internal linking within the group and everything else they're doing from an SEO perspective. So that they own an SEO company, you've got to be pretty smart to start to outrank some of these companies, but there are ways. So how are you supposed to compete? Well, we, as mentioned, we work with a lot of large companies and we see the gaps that exist there. Smaller companies do have some major advantages, and I touched on one of them before. The old David and Goliath sort of image there. Look, one of the things that you can do, the number one thing is you are agile and you are nimble. You have the ability to be able to make decisions quick, implement things quick, and you don't have to go through managerial approval processes in the same way. This is by far the biggest thing that we come across. When we're doing SEO consulting, content marketing consulting for large businesses, I can tell you that even the most minor of changes when it comes to anything on the website or content or whatever else can sometimes take 6 months plus to be implemented. And that is just a huge opportunity to be able to get some changes made on your site, get things ranking quicker than these big behemoths. So your agility and nimbleness is one of the biggest things you can use to your advantage. The other thing is being able to work the long tail. A lot of these companies are creating, these big companies, they've got to cover so much ground, so many products, so many services, so many locations, and the budgets, as massive as they are, the attention and the resources can't cover every keyword in every area. So focusing on the long tail is something that is as a real opportunity for smaller businesses trying to compete with these massive companies. You can realize the gaps that these big companies have in their content strategies and what they're sending live on their site, and really exploit these to your advantage. Getting hyper-local is another example. These massive companies simply can't cover all of the different areas that they want to be found in. Smaller businesses can really dominate a specific channels, specific locations, rather than trying to manage everything that a manager of one of these massive companies has to manage. So that you really can focus down on these specific areas and dominate certain areas, and that's an advantage that you have. And you are perceived different as a small to medium business in a lot of people's minds compared to these massive companies, and so there is a bit of bias there, and people wanting to support the little guys, so to speak. So let's get a little more tactical now. We've spoken about some of the opportunities there. Now, one of the tactics is trying to do what Hearst Media are doing and some of these other big companies. Now, something that's important to note here, if you are going by Google's guidelines, you are supposed to no-follow these links in your footers to all the other sites in your group. That doesn't mean these people are doing it. While it's recommended, if you want to do what Google says to do, go for it, no follow those links, you're not going to get the results. Look at all these massive media companies that are dominating, creating new businesses out of thin air, simply because they're leveraging their existing authority and going against what Google says. Now, having said that, I have, we've had a massive company throughout Asia that had, they dominated car sales within each country in Asia. 5 or 6 of the major countries there. Now, what happened was they did this same sort of thing before we came on board, and they were linking site-wide to all the other sites in the group. And what had happened is they brought on a new site, and that site had sort of 5 or 6 million different pages, and that new site had a link to every other website within the group. And what happened is their traffic in all the other sites skyrocketed. Their rankings and traffic skyrocketed through organic search for a period of about 12 months. And in that 12 months, it started to drop all the way back to what it was originally before that extra site was brought on board. So I've personally not seen sites get a manual penalty or anything of the sort for doing these massive site-wide links to other sites in the group, but I have seen it be very successful and then taper back when Google has realized that, yes, they are part of the same group of companies. Now, ideally, if you are going to do something like this, there'll be additional links going to the other sites in the group, and you won't only be relying on links from each site in the group to each other. You want to ideally be getting a whole lot of external links as well, and that should help with the whole ranking process and the whole declining of rankings and traffic over time, which ideally won't happen. So it does work. These companies are dominating by doing it. One of the other things that they're doing is they're actually, when they are doing these site-wide links, so you can see there, they've got just lists at the bottom of Cosmopolitan, Elle, and Esquire. They are changing up the anchor text in each one of these links and being quite smart about it. So they are making sure that it's not 100% the same anchor text on every single page and on every single site. And often, there's technology you can put in place that will rotate that anchor text and change it regularly. As long as it's relevant to the terms that you're trying to be found for, then it can actually work. And the other thing is, if you haven't got sites, the partner sites that you can find, there is a whole acquisition strategy that you can go through where you can look at buying some of these sites or acquiring them, and making sure you're setting up your linking in between them. Now, I know people are talking about it being PBNs and whatnot. It is very similar to creating PBNs, except they're real businesses, and those businesses aren't developed for the purpose of manipulating rankings. So, as I said, there are risks to pretty much anything. I've seen it work very successfully. Glenn showed it work very successfully with some of the biggest companies in the world. And you just got to understand the risk and make a call from there. Now, one of the other tactics that I've seen work really well is tweaking your dates on content. So going back into older content and updating it with some more relevant data, facts, numbers, making sure that you're then putting a line up the top that says updated and the date that it was updated. Now, I've seen whole sites working on this, doing every single blog post on their site and simply changing the date as the last updated date each month. I've even seen some of them doing each week, and it works really effectively. Google wants to see you providing relevant content, and relevant also means frequently updated or recently updated. So recent content is going to have a great chance of ranking better in search. So something I have seen working and can be done. Again, with anything, don't make it spammy and manipulative. Provide proper updates in that content, add some real data, make sure that people are getting value out of that update. Tactic 3, use longer content. I'm sure this has been done to death, but at the same time, it works. When we're looking at content that we do for some of our enterprise clients, we go in and see the sort of content they're creating currently. We do a proper content audit before we start producing anything for them. And in that content audit, we're pulling in a whole bunch of information from their analytics, link profile data, social data. We're then scraping the site with crawlers so that we can understand content length. We're understanding tone and tonality, things like internal and external links, number of comments. We're able to pull all of this data together. And with that data, we're able to pull out some really interesting findings. And some of those findings are the same thing that everyone says, that longer form content performs better pretty much 100% of the time in our experience. What the opportunity is here is that these enterprise-sized clients are often not creating that longer form content because they're trying to rely on their existing domain authority, and so they're just pumping out small pieces of content, 300-500 words, often doing just press releases or company updates, and not providing anything of real value there. The opportunity still exists in creating good long form content, the same stuff that you'll see on neilpatel.com or Quicksprout or Crazy Egg or HubSpot or a whole range of other places. That long form content is going to win time and time again in terms of attracting more links, attracting more social shares, attracting more comments and engagement. Use longer content. A lot of these big behemoths and enterprise companies still aren't doing it. Tactic 4, using the long tail. So I spoke before about the long tail being an opportunity. A lot of these big companies, for vanity reasons, simply go after the head terms. And yeah, they can often dominate those head terms, but they don't have content strategies in place for them to target the long tail. And this is just a good example of the keyword tufted ottoman, where Joss and Main or Josen Main, they're beating target for that. The smaller businesses have the opportunity when you start going after the long tail. And it's something that should be done. From our audits that I was referring to before, in terms of content strategies and so on, I can tell you that in all of the sites that we audit, a good 80% of all traffic comes through long tail keywords, and very few searches and very few visitors are coming through those head terms on most of the sites that we look at. So the idea there is build out a good content strategy, long form content that's targeting a lot of long tail keywords. and you're going to have an opportunity to beat those massive companies by doing that. So the other part is be a thought leader. You know, I've spoken about long form content, but yeah, you know, people touch on 10x content, whatever you want to call it. I like to refer to them as advanced guides or complete guides. You've seen Neil do a ton of them on QuickSprout, all down the side there. I've written 2 of those with Neil, the complete guide to building your blog audience and the complete guide to building your personal brand. Now, both of those were a good 30 to 40,000 words long, and they were massive link magnets. Like they gave us the ability to get so many different links, so much social awareness, that those pages, specifically those guides, rank for so many different terms. Everyone talks about long form content. I still think there's a huge opportunity in creating these 10x guides or advanced guides that are nicely designed, full of detail, and longer and better than anything that you've seen on topics. I have not seen many big companies creating this sort of content. And one of the reasons being is we spoke about the levels of bureaucracy before. In order to get any sort of content live on these big companies, where you're looking at managerial approvals, legal approvals, communications teams approvals, and that's just to get a normal blog post done. You can imagine in creating some of these massive pieces, how much bureaucracy would simply stop the project ever going forward. So an opportunity exists here in doing this. You're nimble, you're agile, create this long form content, make it better than anything else that's out there, and watch the links come through and the domain authority come through. Now, and a good example of this sitting there was the screenshot there, Beginner's Guide to Website Speed Optimization. This was one that was done by Kinsta, a Beginner's Guide to Website Speed Optimization. And they've actually outranked Google for website speed optimization. It's a great story of a smaller company outranking a large company for a search term with decent search volume. And a quick screenshot here shows the actual number of links that they've got: 2.38 thousand links from 385 different referring domains straight to that guide. They created something that was nicely custom designed, that was longer, more detailed, was broken up in chapters. It was properly implemented on the site. It wasn't just a blog post. There was time, effort, and budget put into it, and they're reaping the results. They're outranking Google. They've got so many links and authority through to the site through that one guide that it's really put them in good stead moving forward. I talked about this before, but getting local, Google's getting really good at identifying, categorizing neighborhoods. So focus on those local areas. Big behemoths cannot focus on every single area. Yes, they've got good domain authority. Yes, if they can create content quick, which most can't, and send it live, then they're going to have an opportunity to rank. But if you focus on specific areas, you can dominate those areas. So we're looking at dominating different areas, looking at dominating different long tail keywords, a whole range of different things that puts you in a different position to these guys. In terms of dominating local, there's so many factors that go into it. It used to be a whole lot easier. There used to be the opportunity when you were doing local where it ran on a different algorithm compared to the normal organic results. And this was back a bunch of years ago. You used to be able to get a 1 box or a 3 box, which was you had a big bold listing right at the top of Google, and they were free if you optimized it in the right way. You used to be able to buy an exact match domain, even if it was a .info domain, so like 80 cents, matching your exact keyword. So if I was looking for a plumber in Chicago, I'd buy plumberchicago.info, 80 cents, create a local business listing and call the name of the company Plumber Chicago, and that was it. You didn't need reviews, you didn't need ratings, you didn't need anything else, no links, you didn't need a single thing, and you could dominate getting a 1 box, and there was a lot of stuff that you could do with that. You used to be able to, if you could think about search terms that were searched for globally, yet with a local geo modifier, you were able to dominate all of those. And an example of that is hotels listings. So you used to be able to buy hotelnewyork.info, and people would search for that all around the world. So there was massive search volumes, but because it was searching in New York, that's the local geo modifier, and you used to be able to rank for so many things. There was a lot of money made in that time. What's happened now is obviously that's changed a lot, and there are a lot of different signals that matter when we're talking about local, and some of those cross over to the normal signals. So there's a lot of link signals there, anchor text, authority, and so on. On-page signals, the presence of NAP and the consistency of your NAP, so your name, address, and phone number being consistent across your website, and citations, listings online, places like Yellow Pages and many other places that are considered citations. I have heard of this. I've not seen it working myself, where people are spamming citations listings simply by doing massive amounts of blog comment spam, doing their name, address, and phone number in an unlinked manner. So you don't even have to link it, but doing that to hundreds, thousands of different websites out there, and those being considered citations. So I have no idea if that still works. It may. Review signals, so reviews, personalization, and social signals. A lot of different things that you need to do to dominate local. However, it is something that these businesses aren't doing, so it is a huge opportunity there. Niching down, you're talking about these big companies that are competing on loads of different products, loads of different services, and in loads of different areas. You can dominate by becoming really specific about the product or service that you're targeting and dominating that in that specific area. It's a way of setting yourself apart. This one's really good. Answer the actual question. Now, a load of these big companies are not answering the actual question. As I said before, they're going after head terms in the content that they're creating. A really good content strategy is looking at the specific words people are asking and the specific questions that they're asking, and writing answers that are answering those specific questions in those specific ways that they're being asked. The psychological aspect of that means that people are getting exactly what they need through your content, but through Google as well. Google is saying, this piece of content is really answering this problem, and they're going to rank you higher for that. And then that also comes into the whole idea of being able to get the answer boxes up the top of Google as well. If you're answering questions very specifically and you're structuring your content with bullet points and very clear answers, asking the question at the top of your blog post, and then giving bullet points and structure underneath and answering it very well, you're going to have a much greater chance of getting those answer boxes at the top of Google. And those answer boxes are taking a lot of traffic. They're doing very similar to what I was suggesting before around what you used to be able to do with local and the one boxes. They're taking up the same amount of space, and it's a great way of getting a higher click-through rate at the top of Google when you may not be ranking at the top of Google. Answering the questions exactly the way they're being asked goes a long way, and there are plenty of places to find where those questions are being asked. Things like scraping sites like Quora, Yahoo Answers, Stack Exchange. There are many different web scraping tools that exist out there so that you can have a look in real time the questions being asked and answer those properly. Now, this one's not specifically on SEO, but it's kind of related. If you're optimizing for answering the right questions, optimizing for search, you can actually, and you're using some of those tactics on your landing pages for PPC, you can really massively bring down your cost per click. Because if you're following the same sort of steps, your quality scores on your landing pages are going to go up, your cost per click is going to come down. There's a good table there about, if you've got a quality score of 10, you're getting a 40% discount in your cost per click. So be mindful when you're doing all these things in SEO that it can cross over into PPC and help reduce your budgets, and then take that saved budget and throw it back into link acquisition or content, and you're going to be winning on both sides. And tactic 10 here, so this is the second last one that I wanted to cover, but tactic 10, so this is around internal link audits. One of the things that I've seen these big companies not doing at all, not even a little bit, is going back through old content and updating their internal linking to go to some of their new posts. This is something that can be really highly effective and something that these big businesses just don't do. It's a quick win there, to be able to just set a time once a month and say, I'm going to spend a couple of hours going through old posts, fixing up the internal linking through to the new posts, making sure when you're creating new posts, you're linking back to old ones, and so on and so forth. That internal linking is passing that domain authority through. It's helping search engine spiders find your new content and index it. It's a really good way of doing something because you're agile that these big businesses just won't do. And the last one I wanted to cover today was using search call to actions. And what I mean by this is that, you know, on the right-hand side there, I know I've used a big company as an example, but you can see in the bottom screenshot there, Volvo 7-seater. So Volvo wanted to be known as a car brand that had a 7-seater, and they wanted Google to start associating searches for people searching for 7-seater with the brand Volvo. So what they did is, you know, they did a bunch of marketing, encouraging people in any way. It can be online, can be offline, flyers, business cards, events. It doesn't really matter, but they tied together those words and told people to search for them. The more people search for the combination of stuff, the more Google sees in their mind or in the machine that Volvo is associated to 7-seater. And so if you go forward then searching for 7-seater, you're going to be getting up some Volvo results. And that's not because they necessarily have the right content for it. It's because they're encouraging people to search for it and encouraging that combination of keywords. So that can be done in any business if you're doing other advertising, if you're doing some offline or some trade shows, whatever it is. You can convince Google to tie together your brand and certain products by encouraging people to repeatedly search for that combination of keywords online. And does it all work? Look, it absolutely does. You know, one of the examples of work that we've done is we took a company called swap.com. They're in a highly competitive industry, which is online clothing, you know, competing against people like eBay and Amazon and so on. And following many of the same tactics. I won't go into all the details, but we did follow many of the same tactics, especially around internal linking as one of the key factors there, and a number of different technical issues around adding additional content to these to the sites, making sure that content length was there, that they're doing some blogging and so on. We were able to take that website and drive 1.7 million organic visitors from search in 2016, so throughout last year. This stuff does work. There's many ways of being able to beat the big companies, and Swap are doing incredibly well from the work that we've done. Now, one of the examples, you know, one of the things that I mentioned right in the beginning was the real challenge in SEO and content marketing isn't necessarily these old companies that are big, that have the inherited domain authority without having to really work for it. It's actually the companies that are coming through that have grown massively in recent times, and that their whole goal is to remain agile and remain nimble, because they have that authority and they're able to create that content fast, and they know the value of doing that. So that there is the risk I see moving forward. All right, that covers most of the presentation there. So happy to get over to any questions that people have.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Aaron. It was a great presentation. I like that it was very tactical and you broke it down for us step by step. For everyone who's listening, go ahead and type your questions, comments into the chat. Also submit them right here underneath the green button. Click the orange button, ask a question or suggest a topic. We have some time for Q&A. And Aaron, before we dive in, what is the best way to get in touch with you in case we won't be able to get to all of the questions?
Yeah. So the best way to get in touch is through, straight up there on the screen, aaron@louder.online, or at Twitter at @IamAaronAegis. Find us at our website, which is just louder.online. Reach out at any point. I'm happy to help anyone if you want to get in touch.
Great, excellent. So let's dive in. The first most upvoted question is, what are the most important factors? I guess I'm going to rephrase it a little bit. Maybe tools, or maybe what is something that you should be looking at when you are spying on your competitors. This is not something that we covered today, but I'm sure that, Aaron, you're familiar with some of the tools and factors.
Yeah. Look, my favorite and my go-to is SEMrush. There's just so much you can do there for competitive analysis. We also use other tools like Hrefs and BuzzSumo. So when I'm looking at competitive analysis, we're doing a whole lot of stuff around the links, the link profiles, anchor text, best pages, pages with the most links, how much search share that they're owning, the sort of social shares against different pieces of content. We use a lot of that data to pull in information and then manipulate it. So we use a lot of these tools and their APIs and pull that data into sheets, Excel sheets or Google Sheets, and manipulate that data in a way that provides some really interesting information for us to guide our clients and strategies with.
Very cool. And how often do you have your team put together such reports, and what is your process? I'm just curious.
Whenever we're taking on a new client, we do a lot of audits around their content, their current content strategy, and so that's right at the beginning in the first month. But then we're regularly doing it. You know, we do monthly reports to clients where we're pulling in all that sort of data. When we need to do content gap analysis and analyze what's happened over time, we're doing it probably every 3 to 6 months, going back and redoing these reports and checking that we're adhering to the strategy and that everything's going the way that we wanted to with the content and the links.
Excellent. And just wanted to use this opportunity to give a shout out to our partner for this summit, SEMrush. They will be giving away 10 free subscriptions for 3 months to 10 lucky people who will participate and score the highest place in Neil's Insider Club. So if you haven't joined, if you haven't shared on Facebook or Twitter, go straight to summit.neilpatel/insider-club. And I will add the link at the very end. But let's go to another question here. Okay, 13 votes. Let's see. Google Analytics shows 95% keyword data as not provided. Google Search Console shows average positions and CTR for keywords, but using this is inaccurate and time-consuming, in my opinion, in Kev's opinion. So how do you know which long-term phrases are returning you a positive ROI?
Well, we're knowing which landing pages are driving traffic from search, and we know what keywords those pages are ranking for. So we're able to work backwards from there and get a pretty good idea of the traffic that's coming through those different keywords because of the landing pages. We spend a lot of time optimizing, doing content gap analysis, creating content specifically for that page to rank in search, and then we're monitoring what those pages are ranking for. So we have a pretty good idea of what traffic comes through from what keywords at that point.
Great. So this takes care of that question. Let's see, Michael Howard. He attended tons of our summits in the past. So Michael, a big shout out to you for joining us again. I'm working with a small music website, bluezmusic.com. How can I compete against major labels and or popular bands with huge following? So I guess today's presentation was about that. So maybe you can get a little bit more specific, Aaron.
Yeah, look, I mean, it depends what you're trying to be found for. You've got a music site. Are you trying to be found for specific songs? Are you trying to be found for how to teach music? It really depends. But what it comes back to from there is making sure you have a content strategy that's there that creates the sort of content that these other guys aren't doing. Look at the gaps that exist in that content strategy, and know that spending the time creating this sort of long form content is going to put you in a position that's different from these other guys. Long form content just for the sake of having that long form content is not the goal. The goal is that you need something that allows you to easily get the links, easily get the social distribution, and do the sort of content that Google's going to love, and that's why we create that content.
Great. All right. So here's another question from Shane. Do you put no follow on the site-wide links in the footer?
It depends. If you ask Google, then yes, you do, which is not going to get you the results. These big companies aren't. Those massive media companies I showed aren't. Many companies that I've looked at aren't. In fact, I don't know of very many that are actually putting no follow on there. And so, I said everything comes with a certain level of risk. It's up to you, the level of risk you want to take there. I also mentioned that I personally have not seen any sites penalized for having followed site-wide footer links to the other sites in the group. All I have seen is a decline in traffic, or a decline in the traffic that was gained by creating those links to begin with. So up to you. But if you're intending on doing it, happy to take the risk, then don't put no follow.
Great. All right, so let's get to another one. Any tips to increase the potential of content going viral without a large social media following?
Yeah, it largely comes down to research of the topic you're going to do. I wouldn't be picking a topic unless you know that it's got legs. You know that there's other content out there that has succeeded in some way socially and through links. I mean, if you're talking about going viral, you're typically talking about socially. So I'd be looking at content that that has got a huge amount of social shares, that really strikes a chord with people, whether it's it puts a lot of people off, takes a contrarian view of things. You've got to put a lot of emotion into, or trigger emotional signals within the content you're creating if you want it to go viral. So I'd be doing so much research. The biggest part would be the research phase. Second would be the content development phase, and knowing that it's got to play on people's emotions the whole way through, and that's what's going to get people to engage and share.
So do you think in general it's worth it to spend so much time doing all this research to trying to re-engineer some of the viral content that is out there and put it there? Or should we just create more content and see what really sticks and goes viral?
It depends on the goals for the business, and going viral in and of itself doesn't necessarily mean anything for a business. So understanding the business's goals and objectives and aligning that through with the type of content you're creating, the reasons behind it, the distribution channels and so on. I mean, that's key to it all. That's what I'd be focusing on. Content just for the sake of it. I say it all the time, content for the sake of having content is pointless. Know that it's going to achieve the goals that you're setting for it, which in most cases is social shares, links, and that then drives everything else, which is your traffic, leads and sales.
Very cool. Okay, let's move to another question. How much time does it take for your search engine optimization efforts to show results in organic search?
Again, it's how long is a piece of string, but if you're starting from scratch, from absolutely nothing, then you're looking at a good sort of 6 months before you're going to see anything happening. You'll start by seeing some rankings for non-competitive terms. You'll be showing up for your brand and so on. Talking about driving proper traffic, leads and sales, you're looking at 6 months plus. There's evidence of it. I think Neil actually did a post on Neil Patel a little while back showing that take up to 12 months, and that's 12 months of consistent work doing the right content and the right link acquisition, or paying an agency to do that.
Great. And I think I also heard on your podcast, I think you and Susan talked about it, that you see some results in 6 months, some results at 12, but then massive results, I think it was like 18 months or something like that.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it's just how long it takes. And the frustrating part about that is there's a lot of small businesses that come in and say, I'm going to do SEO, and that's my whole business growth plan is set up on that. And they're not prepared to last as long as it takes, and they don't have the budget to last as long as it takes when they're trying to get an agency to do it. You always got to balance when you're kicking off, balance between paid acquisition and partnerships, referrals, whatever other acquisition channels you need, as well as SEO, and build that over time.
Great, makes sense. Jean-Luc is saying here, 3 years ago, I created a site for local photography, like a search portal, and it went straight to #1, and it's still there. So
awesome. For what keyword though? I'll be interested to know, what keyword specifically it ranked for, and if that meant it happened because you had an exact match domain or a partial match domain, or if it's a non-competitive keyword or whatever. Yeah,
that's important. Jean-Luc, feel free to clarify. And it looks like there's conversation happening around this specific example. But let's continue with questions. What is the best way to find long tail keywords within your industry, product, or product category?
Long tail keywords. So there's a load of different tools. Long Tail Pro is a really good tool that helps you find that. Even the Google AdWords keyword planner can still work really well, making sure that you're extracting the keywords and then throwing those keywords back in as the seed keywords and continue to pull them out. Long Tail Pro works really well, but there's numerous different ones out there. I'm pretty sure that you can do keyword research through Ahrefs as well as many other tools.
Great. All right, so let's see. We got some very, very specialized questions. I want to make sure to answer all of the general ones that are relevant to the whole audience. Okay, Adrian keeps asking this question to all of the presenters today. What's one question that comes to mind you wish more people ask you about? You're an expert and many viewers might be beginners. Help us think out of the box and reframe our thinking beyond something like art of SEO basics we're prone to ask about.
So what one question would I wish people would ask me for?
Yeah, I guess something when you are eager to share and provide the value, and a lot of people just not asking that basic question, but they would gain a lot of benefit by knowing the answer. If I'm hoping I'm understanding that question correctly myself.
Yeah, look, I can think of two, but they've both sort of been covered. And one of them was really around how long does this stuff take? There's so many people out there that have great knowledge in the industry, and that we're talking about it regularly. But for some reason, that makes people think that it can happen fast because there's experts working for them or with them. It's just not the case. You can't force things to happen any faster. I mean, you can, there's manipulative things that you can do in terms of those links from big group sites, and people talk about private blog networks and pins and so on and so forth. If you're trying to do things by the book, I wish people would really ask me, what am I in for? What sort of budget is it going to take, and how long is this going to go for? Because the reality is it takes a long time, and you just need to be prepared for it and not put all your eggs in one basket and think that that's going to be the savior or the creation of your business.
Excellent. So Jao, if you have a question, feel free to type it into, hit that big orange button, and we'll see if we get to it. If we get enough upvotes, we'll make sure we'll do that. So in the meantime, I'm going to ask another question. How important on Google's radar is a search engine optimization, or how important on Google's radar is a search engine optimization, a silo-structured website? What is the second most important factor to rank high on Google?
So how important is a siloed website? I think it's really important being able to have the correct information architecture in place and proper flow through of internal linking, and indicating as best you can to Google what your content is about and what it's related to. It's really important, especially when we're dealing with these bigger sites. We're able to do a lot by manipulating things internally, such as information architecture. So that's really important. The other question was around what's the most important factor. It's links. Links are a good 50 to 60% of the whole thing, at least. Links, good links, more links.
Small links, good links. Okay, excellent. Phil, okay, Phil is asking to upload his question, and looks like people are quoting. What is what good is optimizing for long tail keyword that have little traffic? Is it any good to do that? It's like building a restaurant in the middle of desert. It's there, but none will find you. Please enlighten me.
Yeah, you definitely don't do it over search terms that have zero traffic, but the point is to be creating regular content that is of a good length so that you're able to target many of these lower search volume long tail keywords. So they don't have a huge amount of traffic behind them, but the combination of all of them is a lot of traffic, and they're much more specific in what they're searching for. So the user intent or the buyer intent when they're searching for those long tail keywords means that they are often going to be much higher converting traffic than the generic traffic that comes through some of those head terms. They're specifically looking for things in a geo-targeted location. They're specifically looking for a certain size or brand or color, which shows buying intent. And that longer tail keyword is often the better stuff to rank for.
Great. Hope it makes sense, Phil. Let's see what else. We've got tons of questions, Aaron. If you won't be able to get to all of them, if you are still have some time, feel free to stick around at the chat. But other than that, everyone can reach you via email. Do you see the questions as well? I just want to make sure that we address all of the important questions that you want to pick. And I have one question also.
I can see some back and forth happening on a few different topics, but yeah, throw a few more questions in. I'm happy. I'll jump in when I see the next one.
Okay, so let me then bring one more question, please. Okay, how important is it to have keywords in your domain names? Okay, so
I'll answer that one. Yeah, it still works. People exact match domains used to just take you to the top of Google instantly. Partial match domains still work. It's not the be all and end all. If you can get one and it still works for your brand, then do yourself a favor and grab one, or create it as a separate microsite, and you'll have a better chance of ranking that microsite as well, except that you then have to do double content, double links, and so on.
Great. So I see a question from Jeff, and I'm going to rephrase it slightly. So he's asking, of all of the tips you shared, what would you say is the highest performing tactic for a new website? I guess, let's start with that question, specifically for the new website.
If I was starting a new website, I would be focusing on one thing, which is answering questions, solving problems in every piece of content that I created, and doing it consistently. If you're answering questions and solving problems, and people are asking these questions online because you're involved in those communities, you're looking at places like Quora and Yahoo Answers and Stack Exchange. If you are seeing people asking those questions, there's a hungry audience behind the content you're creating, which means that it's of value. You can get links because people are asking this online. People are willing to socially share it because it's a pain point for them. So that'll be my number one thing: creating consistent, ongoing content that answers questions and solves problems. That's my number one thing.
Gotcha. Great. Okay, so let's see. Insight linking, any tools to help with that? Any tools to help with insight linking?
Internal linking. There are a lot of tools specifically on WordPress that different plugins that you can get. I don't know the name of any of them off the top of my head, but you can install them and they will and set different keywords that you want in there, and they will automatically link any of those keywords back to the specific pages that you choose. I know there's multiple of them that you can do there. Personally, I still prefer the manual approach because otherwise you're doing pretty heavy, consistent anchor text, internal linking with the same anchor text. I'd recommend spending a little bit of time each week, each month, just going through and manually doing 3 or 4 keywords and linking through to the right places, or a whole sentence or something, keeping that anchor text nice and varied.
Great. So Tina is asking how many words is good content. So how you mentioned in favor of long form content in general, that either you're a small business or enterprise, you should be striving to produce long form content. But what would be the, I guess, the number of words for
the number of words varies. The only thing that I can give you an answer on is that in all of these big content audits that we're doing for clients and client sites, where I showed the sort of content that gets the most links, the most social shares, and so on, the length of content, which seems to be the sweet spot, was anything above 2,000 words. 1,500 to 2,000 words seems to get more social shares and more links. The interesting part about it is that in some of these stats and analytics that we look at, is it doesn't mean that they are consistently reading all of that content all the way to the bottom, but people are more inclined to share it and link to it because it makes them look smart, and it makes them look better to people around them in their community. So above 1,500 to 2,000 words is what I'd be going for. But really, if you can create something of immense value that's shorter than that, that you know is going to be effective and work, you do the best you can. Just make sure you're solving a pain point.
Excellent. Yeah, makes sense. One of my good friends, he's used to be a head of growth at Creative Market, and he was in charge of search engine optimization strategy. He actually mentioned that they were creating tons of content every day with very actionable headlines that actually were making people look good, and place some share buttons right underneath it. And so people were not even reading it.
Yeah.
So they did had a valuable product, but people kept sharing and sharing and sharing, and they drove tons of traffic to the website.
Yeah, it's really quite interesting that people do that, but it works. You know, if you focus on those 2 key things with every piece of content you create, which is what we do for our clients. Number 1, are people going to share it socially? Number 2, would people link to it naturally through their own website? If those 2 things are met, then we know we're going to have a great time marketing that, and we're going to get some great results from it. So if you keep those 2 things in mind with the content, then you win.
Very cool. Okay, so when there's a lack of time to invest on continuous and good link building, can you ask, Aaron, do you recommend any link building services with proven results?
Yes, we do link acquisition for clients, so feel free to reach out to me. I think that we do a good job, and we do a good job for many companies around the world, some of the biggest ones as well.
Excellent. And it looks like we're out of time, right on top of the hour. This would be a good way to wrap it up. And if you need some help with link building or any other services, feel free to reach out to Aaron here at Aaron at Louder Online, as well as he's also on Twitter. I'm Aaron Edges. And Aaron, just wanted to say thank you for joining us today. It was an excellent presentation. People loved it. We answered a lot of questions, and we're always happy to have you back at our virtual summits. Thank you for joining us.
I appreciate you having me. Thanks for getting involved, everyone, and I look forward to the next one.
Perfect. So Aaron, I'm gonna go ahead and let you go, but I also want to mention everyone that we really appreciated you staying here the whole day at the Neil Patel's Advanced Virtual Summit. I really enjoyed the conversations that were happening here. All of the sessions were jam-packed with content. If you have a favorite session, go ahead and add it to the chat box. Would be curious to hear. And other than that, I just wanted to remind you that all of this content that we have for you is available until the end of the last day, which is Thursday, when Neil will be finishing up with his double keynote on demystifying search engine optimization, as well as going into in depth into how his search engine optimization tools set up. and we'll be looking forward to raffle of a one-on-one consultation with Neil, as well as some other prizes. If you would like to keep all of the sessions forever, you can upgrade to Alexa Pass here by clicking that green button on the bottom of the screen that you are seeing. If you have any questions for us, feel free to email Clayton or I, and we will see you tomorrow early. I will be moderating a session, opening keynote with Casey Winters, who will be talking about how Pinterest, Silicon Valley unicorn, drove half of their traffic using organic search. So it's going to be exciting, and we're looking forward to seeing you tomorrow. Thank you, guys. Quick shout out to Crowdcast, our partners for this event, for providing this incredible platform. And we'll see you tomorrow early at the event.